Hi guys, Babylon PC here. Today I have the ultimate optimization guide for Warzone 3. So let's jump straight into it. So now that we are at the desktop, we need to go down here to the search bar and type in game mode. Click on the game mode settings and make sure that the game mode is on. This is a good setting for Warzone 3, so just make sure it's on. After that, type in the search bar graphics and go to the graphics settings. Also make sure that the hardware accelerated GPU scheduling is on. That is also a big benefit for Warzone 3. So now that we are done with the Windows settings, we need to go into the documents. And for that, we click on the Documents tab. We go into Call of Duty, Players, and then we will see here a bunch of these CST files. But the one that we are looking for is the options for COD23 file. You can open it in Notepad. So click on Open. And the first thing we need to change is right here, the renderer worker count. Like on default, I'm not sure, for me it was set to 9. So this is a very important setting, since you will need to know what kind of CPU you have. For me specifically, I have a Ryzen 7 5700X, which is a 8-core and 16-thread CPU. And the best way to check your CPU is to go to a site like techpowerup.com or something and just type in the your specific CPU model number, and it will show you how many cores and how many threads you have. So for me, like I said, it's a Ryzen 7 5700X, so I have 8 cores and 16 threads. Now going back to the file that we are editing, you can see here I already set it to 8 since my CPU has 8 cores. So type in here how many cores you have, not the threads, cores only. So for me it's 8. On your keyboard, click Ctrl and F together and type in blood and click on find text, and it will scroll all the way down to these blood effects. Now first of all, we see here show blood effects. On default it's set to true. The thing, what it does is, for example, when you shoot enemies, there's like a bunch of blood splatter and clouds like coming out of the guys, right? So we have to turn that off, so we don't even see those blood splatters and stuff. Like, we don't need it for competitive play, and it just like makes it harder to see the enemy. So we will make sure to get rid of that. So just type in here, instead of true, type in false. Now scroll down a little bit. Now we have here limit blood effects to prevent excess blood stacking. So now we need to limit the blood effects. We set it to true, so to enable the limiting. So type in true, and then moving down one more line, we see when limiting blood effects, number of milliseconds between the effects. So we can set it from 1 to 2000. So I'm gonna set it to 2000 milliseconds. So we make sure the interval between those potential blood splatters is at the maximum amount. So it doesn't like happen right after each other, you know. So set it to 2000 and we're done with the blood settings. So now let's search for sun and hit find text. You will see here quality level of shadows from the sun at a distance. Now this setting on default is set to high. What we want is lower the quality so we squeeze out a little bit more FPS out of the game. And the best way to set it to low is to use here, like copy all the way from low, also these brackets up to here. Right click on the mouse, click on copy and replace these ones here in the brackets. So just paste those settings. Now let's type in probe and find the text. You will see here reflection probe relighting update stages. So we need to, on default it's set to 4, but we need it to the lowest setting, which is 1. So type in 1. Now let's type in virtual, find the text, and we will see here virtual texturing memory mode. This is a setting that you actually wanna increase to large or possibly even extra large. I use extra large, and there's absolutely no problems for it. Like, this is the memory that is allocated like inside your GPU VRAM, so it doesn't have to load in every time, so it keeps a memory of, for example, the textures of a certain area, so it will make your game run much smoother and give you a little bit of an FPS boost. So set it to large or extra large. Just go down here, for example, to large, copy it and paste it inside here. So just hit the paste and you're good to go. Now let's scroll down a little bit until you see the enable velocity based blur, which is this setting right here. On default it's on, but like anything related to blur in a competitive game is bad in general. So all we want to do is set it from true to false. So after you've done all this, make sure to press Ctrl and S on your keyboard to save the file. Sometimes it asks you, like when you close it down, it asks you to save the file if it's not saved, but mine is saved by clicking Ctrl and S before exiting. So we're done with that CST file, and it's time to jump into the game settings, which should be a lot more fun. Okay, dear friends, now that we are in game, we need to go to the cogwheel up here and click on the graphics settings, and we will come to the display settings, obviously. So in the display mode, what you want to have for competitive gameplay would be like full screen exclusive. But since I'm streaming and I do a bunch of multitasking and tabbing out, I have it on full screen borderless. The difference is small, but if you want the competitive advantage, you run it on full screen mode. So in the display monitor, obviously select your monitor, then display adapter, you select your graphics card. The screen refresh rate you can only change while in full screen mode. So set it to the maximum refresh rate of your monitor. Display resolution, you set it also to the native resolution of your monitor that you are running. Aspect ratio, I have it on wide, 16:9. Now in the brightness folder, you click on that and you want to increase it just a little bit. Like on default it's at 50%, but if you increase it a little bit, like the dark corners of a room will not be as dark, so you might be able to see an enemy a little bit more easier. So just turn it up a smidge. Now, and the NVIDIA Reflex low latency setting, I have it on, but it depends like on your CPU. If you have a very weak CPU compared to your graphics card, you would want this on plus boost. But if you somewhat have a reasonable compromise between the CPU and GPU, so they're similarly powerful, just set the setting to on. Now here at the eco mode preset, you want it on custom. You don't want to run efficiency or low consumption. We don't care about that. At competitive games, all it counts is the FPS. We want the maximum amount of FPS, so set it to custom. Now custom frame rate limit, I have it set on unlimited, but you can play around with it. We can set it to custom and then hit the show more option, and then have it in the gameplay like maxed out in the menus to whatever you like. And if you're like tabbed out, you can have it on something else. But like this is mainly due to maybe power saving. Like if you spend a lot of time in the lobby and editing loadouts and stuff like that, I would maybe use the custom option to lower the frame rate so your GPU doesn't pull like the maximum amount of electricity. But for me personally, I have it on unlimited all the time. For me, the focus mode is set to 90. Now let's move over to the quality settings, and we can go with the graphics preset. You can leave as is. Upscaling for me, since I have a RTX graphics card, for me the best is DLSS. I get the max FPS with DLSS. And for the preset, I use quality, and the DLSS sharpness I set to 100. Path tracing and ray reconstruction, I have this option off. Now to the VRAM scale target. I run it at 50% right now, since I have 10 gigabytes of VRAM and I'm only using 2 gigabytes like from the settings, like the game is not using more than 2.2 gigabytes. So it doesn't make sense to go any higher. And I found like the lower I run it, the smoother like my game feels. So you might play around with this setting a little bit, but I would not suggest for you to go over 70% of the VRAM scale target. Going further down, the texture resolution, make sure to set it on low. I would not set it to very low since the difference is very minimal, but very low looks horrible. So set it to low. Texture filtering anisotropic, I have it on high since it makes my game look a little bit more crisp, and there's no of those jagged edges, so I prefer the look of high. Depth of field is a terrible option. You don't want any blurriness going around in a competitive game, so make sure to turn it off. Now, detail quality level, I have it set to low. Now, particle resolution, I tried out with the high, but it's not very good, so the best way is to set it to low. Now moving down to the bullet impacts, this is a personal preference. I like to see the bullet impacts. Sometimes like when I get shot at and I see like the bullets are hitting the wall, like I know easier the guy is shooting, like, you know, from the left side of me. So I have the bullet impacts on. Persistent effect, turn that off. Shader quality, set it to low. On-demand texture streaming, like it's in general a terrible idea. For example, like my internet is not the best, and if I have this on, I will get a high ping and it will be stuttering and all kinds of trash. So best way, set this option to off. Local texture streaming quality, set this one to low. Now moving down to the shadow and lighting. Shadow quality, set it to normal. Screen space shadows, set them to low. Ambient occlusion, set it to off. Screen space reflections off. Static reflections quality, set them to low. Now environment, tessellation, you want to make sure to have it off. Volumetric quality to low. Deferred physics quality, set it to off. Water grid volumes off. Water quality off. All of these settings will tank a huge amount of your FPS, and this is the best settings that you can have and still keep a little bit of the eye candy, you know. Now make sure to apply the settings, and let's move over to the view. Now field of view, this is also like a personal preference. Like you can try maybe 110, it will give you a little bit more FPS the more you zoomed in, but I think like in battle royale games in general, you want to see as much of your peripheral vision as possible to see for movement, and so you can react much better. So I run it at 120 FOV. ADS field of view is set to affected. Weapon field of view is set to wide, since that will give you, like when you aim down sight and you have it on wide, you can see more of your peripheral vision. So when you're shooting an enemy, you can see if somebody else is pushing in or not. So I have it on wide, but this is also like a personal preference. Now vehicle field of view, I have it set to wide too, just because of the same reason. World motion blur is obviously off. Weapon motion blur is off. I hate blur in competitive games, it's terrible. Film grain for me is 0.25. Now moving down here, the first person camera movement. You want to set this to the lowest possible, so you have the least amount of camera shake when you're sprinting to the streets towards your next victim. Okay guys, so that was it for the ultimate optimization guide. Please let me know in the comments down below if this helped you and how much FPS you gained. For me, I gained like 20-30 FPS, but the smoothness in the gameplay, like compared to the default preset and to what I have now, like it's night and day. And I hope you guys can feel it, and it will make your life a little bit more easy. If you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Warzone content. I see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.